When I was eating dinner with my wife a short time ago, combination of lunch and dinner. We try to eat early now. We have to eat on a smaller table, small coffee table. And I want to give a shout out to her. She's not here right now. She's downstairs playing some board games with some of the other teachers, and people are locked in at these hours, this late in the day. But I want to give a shout out to her because she doesn't sweat the small stuff. And I do respect her for that. I keep an eye on her because you got to do that with people. And I'm aware we've only been married less than a year. But I also keep an eye on myself as a human being because I could screw up. And if this doesn't work out, Allah forbid, it's my job to make sure that I'm not the one at fault. If she's still just unhappy at that point, I should give her a peaceful break. And so, accountability as a man does start with taking yourself to account before you were taken to account for doing wrong. In other words, prevent yourself from doing wrong. So I watch myself, I watch her. And at first I did it because that's what anybody has to do with anybody else. But now I'm doing it all actually because I am de-traumatizing. Oh yeah, you heard me right. See, earlier today we were eating dinner on this small coffee table because the big coffee table has to now be used for the computers that we need to use to teach from home. She spent half her childhood in the United States, and she still is not a Western woman because she rejected the foolish Western paradigms. Now, if she was a Western woman and she did not believe that Western women cheat more than their husbands do, which has been proven or shown in the study, I should say, referred to by Better Bachelor, and she was talking about, I'm going to get on this diet and I'm going to drop some pounds, I would look at her and say, this is the beginning of the end. She wants me to believe that she doesn't believe that Western women cheat more than men, and she's about to drop some pounds. I see where this is going. I would say that. I'd be aware of it. In her case, I've seen nothing to indicate that this means that this is the beginning of the end. I could be wrong, but I'm simply saying I haven't seen the evidence to support such a conclusion. So when we were eating on a small table, I had my can of Pepsi. She moved the plate a little bit and knocked the Pepsi over onto the rug. And I picked it up as quick as I could, but the damage was done. And I took the can to the sink and I began to lean down and wipe up the drip drop on the hard floor away from the rug, between it and the sink. Next thing I saw across my field of vision was a mop. She had quickly gotten a mop and told me, sweetheart, stand up straight because this bending's not bad. It's not good for your back. She's right. I have a back injury. She was not mad. I was prepared for her to snap and even at me. When I was married in the United States for over a decade to the American, she was not even hateful. But she had her own trauma, and I now understand this. Had she been in the place of my current wife, she would have been like, why did you put that there? Damn it, look at this thing. And I would have had to deal with just a nasty ass mood and possibly even her taking it out on me. Even though I didn't move the plate that knocked over the Pepsi. And I said to her, you're not upset? She said, no, it's just a normal accident. And I looked at the rug and I said, well, rug's pretty much not, that stain ain't coming out. She said, the hell with it. It didn't even cost $3. What, you think I'm going to spend a fortune on something like that? Look how easily it got ruined. You think I'd spend a fortune on something like that? And I dropped my jaw. And then I said, okay, so you're not upset with me either. She looked at me like I'd grown another head and said, you didn't move the plate. I knocked it over accidentally. If I'm not upset with me, why would I be upset with you when you didn't do anything? And then she cocked her head to the side and she said, are you okay? And she put her hand on my forehead to see if I was running a fever. She got me. She asked me why I would ask such a question, and I had to tell her what it was. Now, the thing is this. I reacted ready for a bad reaction from her directed at me, but I wasn't going to start it or provoke it. It's just I was prepared. And I said to her, well, You're not upset, and that's good. And she said, yeah, but why would I be upset, especially with you? Do you feel guilty for things other people do? And she knows me. She knows I can't feel guilty for things that other people do. I'm not capable of that kind of guilt. I said to her, no. The thing is, previously, that's exactly what would have happened. That's all. And I think it's just training. I try to be dismissive of it. She gave me a hug and she said, look, that's not normal. And those days are over. My God, you really did need to get out of America, didn't you? She looked me up and down and she told me this is part of the reason I had to get out. A lot of it was not just the spiritual beliefs that you and I have. It was also the way people treat each other. My family is going through this. She said to me, my family's going through this back in the States and in the UK. Family members are not talking to each other anymore, and they share the same grandparents. Our grandparents would turn over in their graves if they knew that these folks had actually cut each other off instead of ironing these things out. And she said, God forbid we ever have to go back to the West to live. Gentlemen, I want to tell you this. I knew that I was traumatized before I ever met her. I knew that. The way that I found out that I was traumatized, though, was that, and I'm telling you this for a reason. I'm not telling you this just to vent. I'm going somewhere with this because there's something in it that's going to benefit you. That's why I'm telling you. So bear with me. Thank you. I found out that I was traumatized when I was living with my parents again for a few months as an adult, and my older daughter was with us. She mistakenly dropped some metal pans that she was carrying to my grandmother to help clean them. I was washing dishes. When she dropped them and that loud clang resulted and sounded, I flinched because of a loud noise. And my father saw my reaction. He did not flinch at the plates, at the pans dropping. He looked terrified at my reaction. He's a physician. And since these wars that America decided to fight have sent soldiers back with trauma, he knows the science because he has to refer patients to trauma specialists as well. Not just physical trauma, but psychological trauma. Now, I'm not a beta. That really doesn't exist per se, but I've never been a pushover. The issue was that I stayed too long because my parents had been married and they didn't give up just because external things got hard. I was trained to not give up per se. And therefore, when things internally got hard, I didn't know that was a license to tell her, you fit the guck out my face, better yet, and you know what, you stay here, I'm gone. I was unaware. So, when I saw that look on his face, I knew exactly what it was. But we talked about it later on. And that's when I knew that he saw trauma in me. And I do have a temper problem because of it. I have destroyed property accidentally and intentionally. And I can't feel guilt about that because that was better than destroying some people, even though they deserved it. And I made good on it. But I was one of the lucky ones, and that's why I'm telling you this. A lot of you listening have actually been through worse trauma than I have. And so what I want you to understand is that many of us have been through it, and I want you to understand what causes it. Then I'm going to tell you why I'm mentioning this to you as well. You see, you've been traumatized sometimes simply by pursuing the Western women. Sometimes that's traumatic. Sometimes it's not. And when I say traumatic, I mean more than just unpleasant. I understand there's a difference between you not liking the situation and an actual trauma. Trauma is something serious. You've been traumatized sometimes because you've been blamed for things you didn't do just for making an approach. You've been identified as a person that you were not. Some of you have been through this. You've had people come up to you later on trying to beat you up for harassing someone that you simply asked for a phone number or something like that without actually harassing them. If you harassed someone for real, that's a different story, and I'm not covering that. You should be traumatized. But some of you have been harassed. And then when you weren't going to give in, she would turn around and ruin your reputation. This happens to many of you. If you pursue and you succeed in getting either just casual sex, a girlfriend, or a wife, whatever level of success you achieved, you had to deal with some trauma after that. And I know because, you see, most women in the world don't necessarily want to be sexually cheap. I get it. But Western women have that on overdrive. They want to be very expensive, and they want every bit of sexual satisfaction you achieve between their thighs to result in a much bigger headache that makes the sex not worth it. That's what the Western woman's like, consciously and subconsciously. They're going to do that. So you're going to be traumatized if you achieve a level of success as well. I'm telling you this because you need to know that you were a victim of trauma to a certain extent, just like the women when they're in abusive relationships and knocked over the head and stuff. Yeah, they're traumatized. To a certain extent, this has happened to many of you. Sometimes it's mild, sometimes it's severe, depending on what you went through. A lot of you went through something worse than I did at some point in time. I was one of the lucky ones, actually. Why I'm telling you this is because what we can do about it is, one, you realize it. And a sure sign is if something gives you bad dreams or stops you from being able to sleep. That's a sure sign. If you imagine that a situation that's bad is about to be a hell of a lot worse because it actually has been previously, and you forget that it's not going to be that bad this time, that's another sign. And specialists can tell you a hell of a lot more than I can. Now, that being said, tell the younger men in your family, hit the share button. But also go and tell young guys you know under 18 in person. You can tell them by word of mouth what I'm saying. You're never going to be alpha enough for them to not traumatize your ass. And when they say to you, wait a minute, because you know teenagers don't know. When they say to you, wait, uncle, wait, bigger brother, wait, so-and-so. Look, man, how do I know you not just some bitter man because of what you didn't get out of them? Then that's when you send them the receipts, the references, the links to the articles about Gisele Bündchen and Tom Brady. Get your pens out. Gisele Bündchen and Tom Brady. There are links about that. Coach Greg Adams covered that too. The links to the videos of Nicole Irie Parker airing out what she's not happy about with Boris Kodjoe. I mean, she has a right to want the romance to continue. Sure, fine. Why didn't they talk about that privately? That's not our business. And also Steph Curry and that fiasco that happened about 11 months ago when Aisha Curry said what she said instead of talking to him about it privately. And that's something I wondered too. And this is going to be another topic for another recording, but thanks for listening to this one so far. I'd like to hear you all's thoughts in the comments section about why it is that Tom Brady, Steph Curry, and Boris Kodjoe get aired out by their wives just publicly saying, I'm ticked off about this, I want this, that, and the other. But you don't see LeBron James going through this. You don't see Mr. Hardwick going through this. What's the deal with that? I mean, y'all tell me why y'all think so. So anyway, let them know that and send them the receipts, because I can tell you straight away. You can't argue with those. If there are such things as alphas, these men are alphas. They're good at what they do. They made millions from it. These women don't have to worry. These women have come in with their own money, or they've not come in with their own money, like Aisha Curry. Whatever the case is, they are sitting pretty. Gisele Bündchen and Tom Brady are worth 600 million combined. And she was upset about house chores that they could both easily afford to pay someone to do. You know what happened? She was sitting up saying, I'll do it, never mind it, I'll do it, fine, I'll do it. And then she's sitting up saying, he doesn't do any housework. This man was like, look, you want me to hire somebody to do it? That's what it was. She was upset that he didn't do it, and studies show that when men do these household chores, the women don't like them anymore. There was a study that came out about that and proved that. So you know what I did with my current wife? I started helping with household chores just to see how true that would be. I forgot she's not a Westerner. She loves it. She thanks me for it. Appreciate that. And she respects me for it. Ain't no sexual revulsion when I touch her. It's not there. Yeah, it's not there. I've been looking to see if that would come up. I'm running test after test. Not because I hate her and I'm trying to eliminate her. I'm running test after test, actually, so that I can sit up and tell you all how much better it is when you find good women that aren't from the West. The good women from the West are taken. I know they're there, but they're taken. They're exceptions. They're not the rule. You're not going to find them. Sorry, it's not your fault. It ain't hers. But when you leave these Western broads alone, things do look up and they get better. And I would say this even if right now she walked in and said, black heart, black mind, you know what, it's not working out. Thank you. But she was polite about it and she wasn't disrespectful. I'd still say the same thing. I would tell you that while we were together, she treated me well. I could say that. I could say that about the one in North Africa too. And she was light-skinned, for those who think I hate light-skinned women even now. No, I never did. That's another topic for another day, and I may not even cover that. But she also treated me well during the time that we were together. When I was with that American, who I don't hate, who probably doesn't hate me, and I don't care if she does, but when I was with her, no, I wasn't treated well all the time. I wasn't outright disrespected all the time. Sometimes I was, and I would return it in kind. But in all honesty, I didn't even know how bad it was at that time because I had nothing to compare it to, and other people had worse stories than I did. But understand this, guys, those of you listening, thanks for listening. I've taken too long already. I tried to keep this short. Send this to the young guys, related to you or not. Send this to guys who the ones whose mothers don't want them to hear this. Send this to them. The ones whose uncles don't want you to hear this because they're blue pill simps. Send this to these young cats too. Hit the share button if they're 18 or older. If they're under 18, just go tell them by word of mouth. And when they ask you about it, like I said, show them the links to the stories about Tom Brady and Gisele Bündchen, Aisha and Stephen Curry, Nicole Lowry Park and Boris Kodjoe. And say, if these men are not alpha, who the hell is, and why are these women still ticked off about it to the point that they won't even fuck the shuck up and talk to them. They got to go and talk to everybody else. And let them know that these complaints they have they're actually the same reasons that some women drag other men into divorce court. Send them the links to Donovan Sharp's short stories about what different women have done. Leaving one man to go and screw an alpha and then he leaves her. And the beta she cheated on takes her back. Or one woman saying, my husband loved me too much, so I cheated on him. Dumb stuff like that. Send them these links. These stories may be rare. They may be common. It doesn't matter. The point is that these stories are published as stories for other women to read and be an example. And that's what's waiting on these cats, these young dudes. Get them when they're in their early teens so that when they become our age, even when they're halfway between their current age and our ages, they're saved. They know what was waiting on them. They understand it. And they realize that the best thing to do is get them passports and get them skills that they can use somewhere else. And they can have their sons and daughters elsewhere, and they can tell their sons, listen, here's the deal. You don't have to go through what I had to go through back in the West. You here, we here. Just don't screw it up. If she's good to you, be good to her, but don't take no mess off of her. And don't reward them for acting like the women back in the United States acted. Make sure you keep this good thing going for your own kids, your own sons, and by extension, your own daughters. That's what we need to do. Look, I'm sorry I couldn't keep this under 20 minutes. Well, I'm sorry. Yeah, you get the idea of almost 20. I'm sorry I couldn't keep it under 10, really. Thanks for listening. The blackest of the black, signing black out. Assalamu alaikum and black heterosexual male power just because they don't like it.